you remember the early days of Facebook ads? Like you
great.
could sell, you could sell anything.
If I go back in time, can you imagine like what we know now? Like it was Christmas. We didn't
even know how good we had it. But you could sell a box of rocks on Facebook with ads and it would sell, right? And so we were selling stuff like crazy. It was amazing. And there was always this thing of like, I would listen to you or go to FHL or whatever. And people are always like, you need to publish content. You need to build your brand. You need to publish every day, create content. And I remember hearing that and going, yeah, I know you need to, but like, it's hard. It takes time. It's like, why would I do that when I could just go spend a little bit of money on ads and get a 4X return and grow my business that way? And so it wasn't that I didn't know how to create content. I had done it for a lot of other people. We had, before all of this, we had done over 500 million views on YouTube. Back when a view actually meant something, right? Because nowadays it's just like somebody scrolls past your video and they count it as a view. But on YouTube, it was like they had to spend a significant amount of time watching it for it to even count as a view. And so we did a lot of viral videos for clients, and I'd always been into video production and design and branding and all that kind of stuff. So we had done all that. I knew how to do it, but sometimes you are really good at helping other people with something, but then like you just kind of neglect yourself.
It's like, let's say the shoemaker's son has no shoes or something.
Yeah, exactly. So like I didn't have shoes as the equivalent. I didn't create my own brand. I didn't create my own content. And so all running on Facebook ads, business was growing. Everything was great. Although I did watch my competitors who were focused, like hyper focused on creating YouTube channels and creating content. I watched them taking off like so much faster than me. Because their relationship was like actually a relationship of value with their audience versus like mine, which was very transactional and just constantly selling through ads. And I noticed that, but I didn't know what to do and I didn't have time to create content. So I kept running the business. And it wasn't until, there was the moment when Facebook ads got all messed up and got expensive. And there was a whole thing that happened with Apple and Facebook and the iPhone. They started putting those notifications on it. And then
it all got worse.
it got worse, and it's continued to get worse since then. And it just got a lot harder. And there was a period of time there where my costs got so high that it just completely shattered my business. Like we went from millions in revenue to like $100,000 in debt, like what felt like overnight. And it was a really hard time. It was around Christmas time, like my favorite time of the year. I love Christmas. And like I spent the entire holiday locked up in a room, like working on the business, just grinding, trying to figure things out. And I remember like sitting around just going like, this is not what I signed up for. Like, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't like, I got into this business because I had a dream for like a lifestyle that I wanted to build and who I wanted to help and what I wanted to do with it. And, your why is usually a big part of that. And my why was like to support my family and to build this thing. And yet here I was trying so hard to serve that why, but then neglecting the why at the same time. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't right. And so that was kind of the catalyst for me where I was like, I have to change something. I can't do this anymore. This isn't working anymore. And so then it was at Mastermind in Paradise, the first year, that I remember I was sitting there and trying to figure out what to do. Like I had already RSVP'd and bought the tickets. So we were there, but like I couldn't afford to be there. Like it was bad. And I remember sitting there and just having this idea, this epiphany kind of came to me that like, I need to turn off my Facebook ads. We've been trying to make it work, but it's not working. So what if we just cut that off completely and go all in on content? Short form videos, right? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube shorts. And I didn't know if it was going to work. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I made the shift. We shut off our Facebook ads. It was right there at that event that I made my first 3 videos, made them, got home, continued making content. It was a grind for a little while making those videos. And then it was about month 5 of making daily video content that my account started taking off. It started working. Everything was growing. We started to make money from it. And we completely replaced what we were doing in revenue before when we were spending $40,000 to $50,000 a month on ads, now just completely from organic. And that was what happened. And then that was why I ended up the next year at Mastermind in Paradise is when you invited me to come speak on stage. And so then I was there actually telling everybody the whole
story. It was
story.
cool too, because you told, I knew what you were doing and saw the results, but I didn't know. And then you told the story. You're like, I was here last year. I couldn't afford to be here. And I went out to the step. You showed the picture. I went to the steps right here. I recorded the video and started, and that's like where it all began. And then 12 months later, how much it's transformed is really cool.
Yeah, crazy.
Let's walk through the process a little bit more. So, because obviously I know, both of us in the perfect webinar, but walk through, like, if you're looking at a 60-second thing, what does that structure kind of look like? So people may not be as familiar with the perfect webinar or whatever, like just to get an idea.
Yeah. So this is the formula that every viral video follows. And like I've gone and I've studied it and I've reverse engineered it. And like there's a lot of different types of viral content. There's funny videos or entertaining videos, or there's educational videos. But this is especially effective. I mean, you can see this formula even in the silly videos, right, that go viral. But it's especially effective for somebody who's like, if you're a creator, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get a message out there, it's a way to grab people's attention, get them to pay attention to what you're talking about, narrow their focus in on what you do and what you can help them with and provide value and build trust with them, and then give them a call to action to go actually do something about it. Which, if you think about it, that's the whole point of business, is to get people's attention, kind of teach them something, and then get them to take action on that thing.
Story offer sounds so
hook
familiar.
Story offer, right? Yeah. So that's the idea, is like, can you do that? And the formula is built on human psychology and what makes that happen. Now, there's a lot of layers of depth to this. Like I built a whole course on it that teaches the entire process, because there's a lot to it. But the basic framework we'll talk about right now, because if you just take what you know and what you're good at and you put it into what I call the language of social media. See, most people just show up and they just start talking like and teaching, but then it's not like working for the type of content that people want to consume. And so if you just put it into this formula, it instantly works better. It instantly performs better. I get comments all the time from people that are like, I did my first one and it got 3 times as many views as I normally get, or 10 times as many views. Sometimes they go viral immediately. And so it's about putting it into this formula so that it can work. So here's the formula. The first thing you start with is a hook. Every piece of content needs to start with a hook. Now, if you're in Russell's world, like, you understand hooks, right? Because you talk about hooks all the time. And a lot of times they're hooks for a webinar, for a presentation, or for an offer and everything. But the hook in content kind of comes before that, right? The hook is not just, here's this thing that I do or presenting it in an interesting way. It's like, I just need to grab people's attention. So it can be a visual hook. It can be an editing hook, like a zoom effect. Or we did one video for you where you were wearing a shirt and a tie, right?
Russell's wearing a tie.
Russell's wearing a tie. Like, you don't see that very often. And so that was the hook, right? But it's got to be something that's going to grab someone's attention to get them to stop. Because if you could have the best content in the world and the most valuable thing, if you can't get somebody to stop scrolling and pay attention to what you're doing, then nobody's ever going to see it. And
so I always visualize that as someone sitting there on the couch or on the toilet, like just scrolling as fast, and like like what's the hook that's strong enough they're gonna be like, whoa, what is that? And click the button.
Yeah. And it could be a visual thing, it could be an editing thing, it could be what you say, it could be something you say that speaks so deeply to a pain point that they have that they go, oh, I gotta know the solution to this. I gotta know what they're gonna say about it. Those are the best hooks, honestly. They're not like trying too hard, it's just like it speaks to that person. So the hook, super important. Now, once you hook their attention, the biggest mistake that people make is they go straight into the content. Okay. So if you think about a hook as creating a question, so a hook might be like, here's the top 3 ways to make your Instagram account blow up, right? That creates a question in the person's mind. What are the top 3 ways, right? So the hook creates a question. The point of the content is to answer that question, but you don't want to answer it right away. Because if you do, the moment they get the answer, they move on to the next thing, especially if you haven't given them like an understanding of why this is important. So that's why after the hook comes the why. Now, the why is where you actually spend time diving into like the background of where this comes from, or the context, or what you need to know in order for this to make sense. It's kind of like, you talk about how to wrap your principles and your points in your webinar in stories. Okay, because by telling the story, it makes the point more valuable, and it makes people more likely to actually do something about it. If you just told people like, hey, you should build a webinar, they're going to be like, okay, right? And maybe none of them will do it. But if you tell a story about how you built a webinar and it blew up your business, and then you say, you need to build a webinar, how many more people are actually going to do it, right? Because it's wrapped in that story. And so that's where you give the context behind what it is. And so it's like, here's 3 content tips for growing your Instagram this year. And instead of going, number 1 is this, you go, the way that I learned this was because I was doing XYZ, I was struggling, I didn't know what to do, and I figured this out. And when I did it, my account blew up. So you guys want to know what it is? All right, here we go. Number 1 is this. So this is doing 2 things for you. Number 1 is it's driving home the value of what you're about to share, so that they go, oh, wow, they could see how valuable this is. And number 2, it's increasing your watch time, right? Because in content, watch time is super important. The bigger percentage of your video that somebody watches, the better it's going to perform in the algorithm. And so you've caught somebody's attention. Once you've got somebody's attention, you just bought yourself like probably 5, 10, 15 seconds in short form video to where they're like, okay, I'll bite. I'll give this a little bit of time. I'll pay attention to this thing. So you want to use those 10 or 15 seconds very wisely to really drive home the value of what you're about to say. And if you do that correctly, after those 10 or 15 seconds, now they're really hooked. Now they're like, I have to know, I have to watch this video to the end. Okay. Then of course, then you get into the content. Now this is where you make the point, whether it's 3 points or it's 1 point, you teach the principle briefly, kind of go into it. And then of course, at the end, then you have the last part of the framework, which is the call to action. What do I do about this now that I know this? And I think you've taught this before. If you give people like all this information, you tell them this amazing thing, and then you don't tell them to go do something with it, they're like,
what do I do?
It feels weird. It's like you teach it to them and then the video just cuts off. They're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Right? So, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, you want people to take action. So that's where you tell them what to do. And it's not always like, go get my free thing or go buy my course. Sometimes it's like, follow me for more tips. Sometimes it's like, I just taught you how to do this. Now go do it. And it just gives the content a very nice, like concluding statement. It makes it feel satisfying. And, the end of the content is really important for how it makes people feel. And so when you make people feel satisfied, like I just got a lot out of this, it's going to make them more interested in watching more of your content. And so that's the 4-step framework, like hook, why, point, invitation. That's what I call it, right? And it takes people through the process, this psychological process of grabbing their attention, getting them interested in what you're saying, giving them some value, building trust with them, and then getting them to actually take action on what you just said.